Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today, I'm going to talk about my research on learner persistence. Let me first introduce why I wanted to carry out such research. As a university teacher, I found learners' responses to certain things vary a lot. For example, some students may completely give up their degree studies because of a temporary illness, while others may overcome all kinds of difficulties and try their best to continue their studies. The latter are the students with learner persistence, and this is the group that I'm particularly interested in. To do the research, first, I selected my undergraduate students as the research sample, with a total of 200 people. All the students selected were seniors, and they had already stayed in the course very well. Although the sample was drawn from a range of ages, there were deliberately a large number of mature students, and there was one thing in common. All of those students were living at home in the local region. I wanted to maintain this element of consistency, so I didn't include those coming from outside this area. Then I designed a questionnaire that aimed to find out what their concerns had been when they began the course, and then what had made them stick at the 3-year studies in university. Findings from the first section pointed out that there were different concerns when they started their university studies. For example, some worried about the financial circumstances, while others were concerned about their careers after graduation. However, the research found the biggest concern for mature students tended to be the relationship with their children at home. Next, I wanted to find out what had made those students persist with their university studies. So in the second part, I designed my questionnaire under 3 main headings: social and environmental factors, other factors, and personal characteristics. And I included 3 levels of importance for each of these 3 headings. At the first level, those points identified by the respondents were regarded as the most important in learner persistence. Let's look at them one by one. For the first column, that's the social and environmental factors, a significant number of students said it was crucial to have effective support, whether from their tutors or friends. For other factors, students were driven not so much by high grades, but by what they regarded as a success in their studies. This was quite different from what I'd expected. Regarding personal characteristics, a sizable percentage of participants said they liked to take up a challenge, which was seen as a very important factor. Then at the second level of importance, in the first category, many of the respondents regarded the life they enjoyed at school as an important social factor because this gave them good experiences. In the second column, other factors, a lot of people said that the most significant thing was decent health, which was also conducive to their persistence in the studies. And then, under the third column, quite a number of respondents had the same view that they should have a range of interests in their everyday lives, because this could broaden their minds and give them a sense of perspective, which less persistent learners might lack. And then on to the third level of importance, under social factors. Several respondents said that they had been keeping close to their tutors in their 3-year university studies. In the second column, for other factors, they mentioned it was very important to live in a family without any problems. And finally, under column 3, they talked about the capacity for multitasking, which was the ability to simultaneously deal with different problems. From these findings, I've concluded some recommendations on how to promote students' learner persistence. Primarily, I suggest that we should distribute questionnaires to the freshmen so as to make clear of their maturity when they begin the course. This is really our most important concern. Secondly, I propose that we should find ways to offer some training sessions to the students who are selected to encourage them to play the role of advisors. The purpose of this is to make support much more approachable to other students. Thirdly, in the evening and night, when offices are closed, students may have no one to turn to for help. As a result, I think we should provide online services to those in need. Researchers have pointed out that this service is actually more accessible than traditional services. And finally, If students don't submit their assignments before the deadlines, I think we teachers should contact the students first rather than waiting for the students to come to us. So, this is all I want to share on my research. Now, let's turn to the next part. Are there any questions about...
That is the end of part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 4.
Hello, John. Come in and sit down. You're here to discuss your research project, are you?
Yes, I've more or less decided what to do, but I'd like your opinion.
Fine. You've chosen a topic?
Yes, I want to look at how people use public services in their local area. Things like parks and swimming pools.
Right. Well, the kind of information you'll get is very useful for town planning, of course. Do you have a special interest in public services?
Not really. It's just that I found a report in the college library about an investigation that was done 10 years ago, and I thought it'd be interesting to do a parallel one.
10 years is a relatively short space of time. What do you expect to find? Do you think things will be more or less the same as before?
I think there'll be some differences. For example, I think the number of people going to the library will have decreased. And I'd guess that older people are using the sports centre more often than they used to.
Fine. So those are your hypotheses. Now, what sort of data are you going to use?
I was thinking of using official records from the management or the local council and analysing them. They should be easy to obtain. I don't think that sort of information would be confidential.
Yes, you're probably right. There might not be as much information as you'd like, but it'd certainly be the easiest kind of data to work with. But have you considered using a questionnaire as well?
It's okay to get data from more than one source?
Absolutely. It's a bonus. You've already done the module on questionnaire design, haven't you? And it'll be good to get experience, because next year you'll have to do something similar for your final dissertation, on a bigger scale.
OK.
And what are the variables you'll be looking at? Are you going to look at people's level of education? Whether they have a degree, for example?
I hadn't planned to. Do you think I should?
Well, you might see some interesting patterns.
OK. And that'll tie in nicely with my plans to analyse the kind of work people do.
What about the size of your sample? Have you got any thoughts on the number of questionnaires you might send out?
The previous study surveyed 120 people. I don't think I can really analyse more than 50 working by myself, so I should probably distribute about 80 questionnaires altogether to allow for wastage. Do you think that's enough?
Definitely. I know that your project guidelines recommend a minimum of 100, but that's an ideal number, and you're working by yourself. And anyway, this assignment is mainly about giving you practice in research methods.
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30 on page 6. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
And think of ways you can encourage people to actually complete the questionnaire. For example, to make sure that your questions make sense, you should try them out beforehand.
OK, that's no problem. My friends will help.
Good. Sometimes you get unpredicted responses and you have to rephrase a question.
And I know that you usually get a better return if you deliver questionnaires in person, but there'll be too many. But I could enclose a stamped envelope for the return post. It's a bit expensive, but I think it'd be worth it.
Yes, good. Some people say that another way of increasing returns is to make the questionnaires anonymous, but usually people put their names on anyway, so I don't think that would make much difference.
OK. And can you give me a bit more advice about the questionnaire? Would it be a good idea to have a short paragraph at the top explaining what I'm doing and why?
Definitely. And don't forget, you'll need to get a bit of information about your subjects, what age group they're in, and perhaps how long they've lived in the area. So you'll need questions for that.
Yes. I suppose that'll mean it takes a bit longer to complete, but... Should I give them my phone number in case there's anything they're not sure about?
I wouldn't if I were you, no.
OK. And do I have to use open-ended questions as well as closed questions? I know the books say it's better to have a mixture.
Well, it depends. In this case, I'd stick to closed questions. The results will be much more manageable like that.
If I draft some questions tomorrow, would it be OK to bring them to...
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40. Good morning. In today's lecture, we're going to look at the cube houses, an iconic architectural complex in Rotterdam. First, I'm going to be telling you about the history behind it. As many may know, not much survived the bombing of Rotterdam during World War II, and it took a long while for the city to start the urban regeneration project. Dutch architect Pierre Blom designed Rotterdam's cube houses in the late 70s at the request of the city's planners. He had previously experimented with cubic architecture in the city of Helmond. So, when he was offered this project in the Olderhaven area of the city, he decided to expand upon his original idea. Blom believed that urban communities should live together under an urban roof. He designed the cube houses to recreate daily life in a village where individuals are closely connected and yet have their own separate space. And even after more than 30 years, the cube houses remain one of the city's most eye-catching developments. It's easy to see why. These striking homes are cubes tilted 45 degrees on their side. The result is buildings that look, feel and behave unlike anything you'll find elsewhere in the world. The concept behind these houses is that each elevated cube seems like a tree. And, collectively, the cube houses are in the shape of a forest, with each triangular roof representing a treetop. Interestingly, these houses are located right over a pedestrian bridge across one of the busiest streets into the city centre next to a railway station. The traffic-free area that connects the cubes includes a little children's playground, as well as small offices and studios. With thriving restaurants and cafes right on the doorstep, they were designed with the community very much in mind. However, the cube housing's development endured various challenges and complications during design and construction, and it once stopped as the designer had difficulty in finance. Luckily, the project resumed within 2 weeks after the designer received another round of grants from the City Council. So, what makes the cube houses different from traditional architecture? Let's look at some of its unique design features. Each cube house has a space of 100 square meters and is divided into 3 floors, and it is very striking to see these houses fixed on one angle. The tilted residences are constructed on 3 concrete pillars. The whole construction is made of 38 regular cube units, all connected together with 2 supersized cubes at both ends of the string. One of the 2 larger cubes was developed as an architecture school, and there is another building recently built between it and a warehouse. Standing at 3 floors tall, their ground floor is the entrance. When you enter a cube house, the first thing to get used to is that all the walls are slanted. You must take a narrow staircase to reach the lower floor. This level and the top level are both triangle-shaped. The lower level contains an open kitchen and a living room. The medium level houses a bathroom and 2 bedrooms, while the top level provides a great view since the apex of the room is a 3-sided pyramid with windows all around. In some cases, the top floor is used as a small rooftop garden. And as you enter the top half of the structure, your initial inclination may well be to mind your head. Now that you know the history and design features behind these odd-looking houses, you might be thinking about how it is to live in them. After curious bystanders kept disturbing the cube house's residents, one shrewd owner opened the Show Cube Museum, which gives visitors the chance to take a tour around a fully furnished cube house. It also highlights some of the everyday challenges that the residents face, such as buying and fitting furniture for a structure without straight walls. In recent years, Rotterdam's cube houses have been joined by another architectural icon just across the square. Rotterdam's Market Hall, the largest indoor market in the Netherlands, is another multi-purpose residential and retail complex that will live long in your memory, as well as helping to fill your belly with tasty treats. In 2009, the Rotterdam-based personal architecture, B&A, converted one of the larger cubes for one of the leading stay-okay hostel chains in the Netherlands. Today, the hostel invites everyone to experience what it's like to live in a cube house and enjoy a stunning panoramic vista of the surrounding area. What attracts guests most is its ideal location with a major railway station within a 5-minute walk. The accommodation is also offered at a fair price, which appeals to visitors both from home and abroad. That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello, everyone. I have an exciting announcement to make. The university has decided to enter an international competition next year, and we are going to need some enthusiastic undergraduates to help us with the project. The competition is to make an automated vehicle, a kind of robot that will be able to move quickly and accurately on its own. All the vehicles will then enter a race which will take place here in the U.S. So the engineering school will be collaborating with the computer science department and possibly the automotive design department, although that's yet to be confirmed. What they have to do is try to design an automated vehicle which will be able to complete the course. To give you an idea of how tough this race is, one vehicle last year only managed 12 kilometers of the 280-kilometer stretch of California desert that forms the racetrack. The vehicles in the race must cover the whole distance without a human driver and, quite autonomously, identify and steer around corners and avoid unexpected hazards, things like rocks, for example. It's a challenging task because there are lots of obstacles of this kind along the route. As I said, in last year's event, the most successful vehicle only drove 12 kilometers. Then its team decided to deactivate it because it had gotten too near a cliff. In the race held earlier this year, there still wasn't a winner, but they did much better, and there was one design which we will be analyzing carefully in seminars. Its strength was in its onboard technology. That particular vehicle built a 3-dimensional picture of its surroundings using video cameras and lasers. It was equipped with 7 laptop computers, which analyzed the incoming information 10 times a second. And it drove along at a comfortable 55 kilometers per hour. The design details have been published, so we hope to learn from them and go on to make ours even better for next year's competition. The competition is open to all universities, and there's a prize of $2 million for the winner. But it's really about more than that. The sponsors are hoping to see innovative design ideas that they can transfer into commercial production. You'll get a lot out of this project as well, in terms of working as a team and broadening your knowledge of the subject. The key to winning is unlikely to be anything to do with what the vehicle looks like. Programming skills will decide who eventually wins first prize. The design will need technological expertise in this area above all, and that's what the team who work on the project will need to focus on. I'll be handing out some scientific reports about this year's vehicle shortly. It's interesting to read that even after months and months of planning, building, and trials, many of the teams were amazed that the vehicles did what they wanted them to do at all, because so many things can go wrong on the day. So even though no vehicle actually completed the course, they were pleased they got as far as they did. Right. If any of you are interested, this is the plan of action. Keep an eye on the main notice board for details. Firstly, at the beginning of May, we'll be scheduling a seminar to introduce the project to anyone who might be interested. Later in the month, we'll be asking you to submit a short essay, letting us know why you feel you should be chosen to take part in the project. You'll need to tell us about any particular skills that you have and can bring to the team, and any experience you may have had in the field. Then, in June, we're organizing a trip to a factory to chat over some design considerations with specialists there who have kindly agreed to act as consultants throughout the project. Then, at the beginning of the next semester in September, we thought we'd hold a weekend workshop to share ideas and see computer-aided design demonstrations. We have a brand new package which sponsors have kindly financed. You'll need to be able to use it with confidence before we start. In December, we'll be asking you to submit your outline designs, and the following month, we'll choose the team and start work in earnest. Okay, it sounds like a lot of fun, but it will also require serious commitment. So please think this through carefully. Some handouts are coming around now. Any questions?
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.